I go all over the United States preaching. It's my full-time job. And part of my ministry as a preacher is I give a lot of retreats, especially for cloistered communities, Trappist monks, Poor Clare nuns, and cloistered Carmelite nuns. Well, I was recently asked to give a retreat to some cloistered Carmelite nuns. And of course, you need to know that when you get invited by the Carmelites, it's not just going to be a plain old 5-day retreat. It's 9 full days. And that means you got to come up with 2 45 minutes talk a day. You got to have 1 homily for Mass. And then you need a 5-minute little fervorino at night before the closing of the Blessed Sacrament. So it's a lot of work. Well, I don't mind it. When you're a full-time preacher, you know, gradually you develop a repertoire and you learn how you can move your material around and present it in all kinds of different ways. But let me tell you something that a lot of people don't know. When you're asked to give a retreat to a Carmelite monastery, those 9 days, you're going to lose about 1 pound a day. Really, it's a great way to keep weight off. Because, you know, as much as I love the cloistered nuns, and I really respect their life of prayer, really, they spend a little bit too much time praying and not enough time reading cookbooks. Really, I'm serious. You think I'm kidding, but I'm not. Food in Carmelite monasteries is usually awful. Anyway, so I get to this monastery in Pennsylvania. And once I arrive, the prioress, that's what they call the head of the monastery. The prioress says to me, "Oh, Father Albert," she said, "I meant to tell you, and I forgot to tell you in the email, but we have a special tradition here in our monastery. And that is, on the 5th day of our retreat, we like to have what we call a desert day. And on the desert day, all we ask you to do is at 6:30 in the morning, expose the Blessed Sacrament, and then at 6:30 in the evening, put the Blessed Sacrament away, and then you're done. There's no Mass, there's no community prayers. It's a desert day for us." Well, I'm thinking, great. I'm thinking McDonald's. I'm thinking pizza. I'm thinking, I wonder if they got Popeyes in Pennsylvania. Anyway, so on the 5th day of the retreat, I wake up, and at 6:30 in the morning, as I was asked, I go to the chapel and I knock on the tabernacle door, and I say, "Jesus, it's time to get up because you're working all day today." So I expose the Blessed Sacrament, and I put the Blessed Sacrament on the altar, and then I head back to my bedroom. Well, around 11 o'clock in the morning, you know, when you hang around with cloistered nuns, you get a little bit of religion sooner or later. So I decided at 11 o'clock, you know, I am the retreat master, and if the nuns don't see me in that chapel, they might be a little bit shocked and scandalized. So I decided I would go and make a little visit at 11 o'clock in the morning. So I walk into the chapel, and there's the Blessed Sacrament on the altar. But I got to be honest, I was a little bit shocked. Maybe even a touch scandalized. Because when I walked in, there was Sister Amata Rose in the right-hand corner of the chapel reading the newspaper. And the Blessed Sacrament is on the altar. And then I noticed on the left-hand side of the altar, there is Sister Regina reading Time magazine. And I'm thinking, what on earth is this say nothing. I keep my mouth shut. I have learned that my mouth gets me in too much trouble. The following day, I'm in the sacristy getting ready for Mass. And the prioress, the head of the monastery, she comes up to me and she says, "So, Father," she says, "how was your desert day?" Oh, I said, "Sister, it was fine." I said, "I went to McDonald's and I got myself 2 hamburgers." "Well, good for you," she said. And then I paused for a moment and I asked myself, should I or should I not? And I'm thinking, you know what? They'll never see me back in Pennsylvania. I can get away with it. So I said to her, I said, "Sister Jane," I said, "could I ask you a question?" She said, "Sure, certainly." I said, "Well, yesterday," she said, I said, "yesterday around 11 o'clock, I went into the chapel to make a little visit." And I said, "You know, I was a little bit shocked." And then I figured, I'm going to use their names. I'm going to turn them in. So I said, "You know," I said, "Sister Amata Rose was in one corner reading the newspaper. And I said, Regina was in the other corner reading Time magazine. And I said, there was Jesus exposed on the altar." I was a little bit shocked. I think that is absolutely disgraceful. Well, Sister Jane right away says, "Oh, for goodness sakes." She says, "Don't get your underwear in an uproar." She said, "Don't get your blood pressure high." And then she said to me, "Maybe you need to remember, Father, that Pope Paul VI, he told us contemplatives that our mission in the church is to pray for the needs of the world." And so she says, "I have told every nun in this monastery that every day they must either read the newspaper or watch the evening news, because that's the only way we know how to pray for the needs of the world." She said, "I don't think Amata Rose and Regina were doing anything scandalous. They were simply praying the news." Well, I had egg on my face because my friends had once again reminded me that as Christians, you and I are not meant to run away from the world. We are not Buddhist monks. Rather, a Christian is meant to be engaged with the world. The Christian is meant to be inserted into the world in order to transform the world. And so you can become a saint simply by taking seriously that wonderful prayer, the prayer of intercession. I would love to know how many of you, in your ordinary, everyday prayer, how many of you actually prayed for the children who were taken away from their parents on the border? I would love to know how many of you actually prayed as those 12 teenagers and their soccer coach were stuck in that cave in Thailand. I would love to know how many of us have prayed for the people who lost their homes and their livelihoods because of the volcanoes in Hawaii. You know, you and I live these lives where we think the spiritual life is just about me and Jesus. But it's not. As Pope Francis reminds us day in and day out, holiness is a family affair. And you and I are challenged to pray for the needs of the world. This is how saints are made. You know, I go across the country preaching every week. And I am appalled. Did you know, let me let you in on a little secret that a lot of people don't know. Did you know that some Catholic parishes have the audacity to buy books that already have, last year they were printed, and they have already pre-printed the prayers of intercession for Sunday Mass? That's why you and I don't pay attention to them at Sunday Mass because they are so out of touch with what's going on in the world. You and I are challenged to bring the needs of the world. We are challenged to pray the news and to intercede for this world. Wouldn't it be wonderful if you and I would take seriously our call and pray that the rescuers would have courage and have insight as they tried to rescue those 13 people in the cave in Thailand? Wouldn't it be wonderful if you and I could pray that the hearts of our legislators would be transformed so that children would not be ripped from their parents? Wouldn't it be wonderful if you and I could pray that those people who have lost their homes because of the volcanoes in Hawaii, that they find hope and they find consolation? Brothers and sisters, we don't become a saint on our own. Our holiness is not based upon snuggling up to Jesus and whispering in his ears. Our holiness is all about snuggling up to Jesus and asking him to give people who are in despair, to give them hope. And asking Jesus to give people who think their life has come to an end, to have the courage to face another day. This is how saints are made. We are made by praying the news. Let me tell you something. An authentic saint, in his right hand, he holds the Bible. And in his left hand, the daily newspaper. May the Lord give you his peace.